hands together, keep it going, give it all you got for comedian Crystal Pig.
Thank you. Oh my goodness. She said comedian. You know I like to be funny because you got to laugh to keep from crying. That's why I brought my purse up here because everybody here ain't saved, okay? I got my monumental bag. I'm going to watch my monumental ties. I am that monumental mama. Yes, I laugh to keep from crying because so much is going on. And I'm here to talk about the monumental thing of forgiveness, the spirit of forgiveness. Anybody here with their wife tonight? Anybody here with somebody else's wife? Well, to all the married couples, keep your marriage together because the grass is not greener on the other side. You have to water and fertilize what you already have. Yeah, I know this brother, his wife caught him in bed with another woman and his wife shot him twice. Oh, no, ma'am, don't feel sorry for him because he ain't have no business in bed with no other woman. So after I picked up them 2 shell casings and got I helped him get his clothes back on, amen. And I didn't shoot him physically, but in my mind and in my heart, I shot that husband that had been cheating on me for years. I'm a comedian, but I'm telling you, being cheated on, it's not funny. Ooh, it hurts. It cuts deep. Oh, my goodness. My husband cheated on me, and when I tell you he slept with every woman in Detroit but Lassie. Some of y'all might be in the audience right now. I don't, because side chicks will show up anywhere. And it's hard, but he repeatedly cheated on me, and I repeatedly stayed. I was married to that man 20 years, 4 months, 9 days, and 3 hours. That was a life sentence. I should have been paroled. And when I got tired of being sick and tired, see, it's not enough to be just sick and tired. You got to be sick and tired of being sick and tired. I decided to walk away because I couldn't take it anymore. And so I'm like, what am I going to do? I finally was free. I'm going to chill, might date a little bit, but I'm free. So I thought. And 6 months after being divorced, I get a phone call. Now, you know how we are. We look at the caller ID because we don't want to talk to everybody. And the name pops up on caller ID. It's my former husband. And the way the marriage ended, now everybody knows me as the clean comedian, the Christian comedian. But what I was feeling wasn't very Christian-like. Because the way that my husband did me, if he was on fire, I wouldn't even pee on him. I'm talking about the P. Diddy pee. You know the pee I'm talking about. Because he did me bold for 20 years. I loved every piece of that man. But he saw his name on my caller ID, and I looked at the phone with an attitude, what we do. But something led me to answer the call. And I picked up the phone, and I was acting like his name wasn't stored in the phone anymore. Hello? And he said, hi, how you doing? I said, I'm good, how you doing? We went through all this light banter and pleasantries. So in the back of my mind, I'm trying to figure out, why is he calling me? What's really going on? And so finally I said, well, what's up? What's going on? He said, cancer. I'm sitting there like, cancer? I'm like, boy, you was born in January. You a Capricorn. And then he said, no, I have cancer. I'm like, cancer? He said, yeah. And I'm sitting there just dazed and confused because this is a guy that could still wear the same police uniform after 20 years. He was in shape. He would ride bikes like Tour de France and all that. And he was in shape. And me, I had 3 chins, and I was, a little portly. I'm not like I was now. I'm, cute now because I lost a little weight. But I was plus size, and here's a man that's been in shape and healthy, battling cancer. But again, I'm a Taurus, and I'm bullheaded, and I hold grudges. So again, why are you calling me? Because I'm thinking in my head, okay, you have cancer, and a little part of me was like, karma. I did. And I have to repent about what I said, but I'm going to be honest in what I was feeling at that moment. And then I thought about, well, why you telling me where are all them swamp donkeys you was sleeping with? And again, some of you might be in the audience, but I digress. But then there began to be a monumental shift, because I would never want to do to somebody what they did to me. And again, we have 2 daughters. But I'm going to take you back, because it's like, why did you stay for 20 years? 20 years, 4 hours, 4 days. I didn't think I was worth it. Who gonna want somebody 200 and almost 260, 3 chins? I didn't think I could. I didn't have the money financially that I could live on my own and survive. Nobody want no used goods. Been with you 20 years. Who's gonna want me after all this time? Everything ain't in place like it used to be when we got married. But I met this man in 1991. I walked into Fairlane. I know we don't go there anymore. And I walked into Imperial Sports, for those of you that were born before 1972. And this nice-looking gentleman was in there smiling, happy, friendly, kind, chivalrous. And he made a great impression on me. And from that moment, we began to date. And 4 years later, we got married. We have 2 daughters, 2.5 years apart, and got us a home. But things took a turn for the worse, because we wasn't the only ones married. See, typically when you get married, it's 3 of y'all, you, him, and God. But it was 4, 6, 9, 12. I stopped counting. It was so many women. And then I don't know why he was cheating, because he would get caught all the time. And I kept staying and staying, because we got children. I didn't want my children to grow up like I did. My parents got divorced when I was 6 years old. I didn't want them to be in the house without their dad. And he was a great dad. Rotten husband, but a great dad. He would go to their games and go to parent-teacher conferences and participate and play with them and take them to the mall and have daddy-daughter day. And I can't take that away from him, because he was a magnificent father. But my father, he was not. And it was hard. And so I stayed, because I didn't think I was worth it. But again, I got tired of being sick and tired. And I gave it all away. We got divorced. I didn't even have a lawyer. He didn't have a lawyer. I wrote the documents myself. I didn't want nothing from him. I didn't bleed him dry. I wasn't trying to get all this money and spousal support. Didn't even have a child support order. I made arrangements verbally with him to get child support, because I wasn't that type of woman. I just wanted to be free, like Denise Williams said. And so again, I stayed all that time, but getting divorced, I still wasn't free. And I got that call, like I said, 6 months later. And then as his cancer went on, my heart, I had empathy. I went from having sympathy to having empathy. And if you don't know the difference, sympathy is when you feel sorry for somebody. Empathy is when you put yourself in their shoes. And so I put myself in his shoes and felt, what if I was in this position? How would I want to be treated? So I would call him up, check on him, and then the months grew on. And right around December of 2016, I called him up, hey, how you doing? I'm not doing too good. I called into work today. what's going on, my leg is bothering me, and that's where the tumor was, because he had sarcoma. And there wasn't a survival rate for sarcoma. And if you got chemo, you only lived a year longer. So he was prepared to die. And he just said, I'm going to do radiation. I'm not going to do chemo. I said, well, you at least got to eat. And so I went over to his apartment. He lived in Troy, about 15 minutes from me on the 3rd floor, and they didn't have elevators, and I would have to traipse up these 3 flights of steps being 260, so I was sweating, and my cleavage would smell like buttermilk by the time I made it up to the top of the steps, and I was winded and the asthma and wheezing, and I knock on the door, and I'd bring him something to eat, and I would change his wound, do his wound care, and make sure he was good, and then I would go back to my home. And then the next day I called him, hey, how you doing? I called in to work again. Have you eaten? No, I haven't eaten. I'm gonna bring you something to eat. And I drove back out to Troy, took him something to eat, did his wound care, bathed him, got him in the bed. And it was a snowstorm outside that particular day. I said, well, I'm about to head home because it's snowing. He said, do you want to stay? And then I called the 3rd time, and he said he was feeling better, but he hadn't eaten, so I took my little picnic basket over there again. And I never went back home, only to check on my house, make sure everything was good, no cobwebs. And I stayed out in Troy day after day, wake up, get him prepared, and I would go to my job. And after my job, I might have a comedy show, go do the comedy show, and go back to his apartment so I can give him his medicine and get him bathed. And then I would try to get him out the house because I wanted his last days to be his best days. And because he didn't have an elevator, I would put him over my shoulder and I would carry him down the 3 flights of steps and load him in my truck, take him to dinner, take him to the movies, go about up and down Big Beaver, different places. So his last days could be his best days. Y'all remember Diary of a Mad Black Woman? I was that woman. But I didn't flip him out the wheelchair. And then the cancer progressed more and more to where he couldn't speak barely. And on March 21st, 2017, he passed. And my children, they were proud of me because they knew what I had gone through those last 20 years. But I stood tall and still took care of them because I wanted to be an example to them. And at the end of the day, that was still their father. And you never know how people are watching. People are always watching, so that's why you got to do monumental things. You don't know who's watching. You don't know who's listening. You don't know who's taking notes. And sure enough, a few months later, my daughter said, well, we want you to go to the will reading with us. We want you to sit with us and be their support. Not a problem. But I didn't find out that I guess my former husband must have forgiven himself for all that he did. Because he wrote me in his will. Wrote me in his will. I didn't collect because somebody stole the money, but that's for another twisted story. But I felt vindicated. And I felt uplifted because finally, after all that I've been through, God still smiled on me because I was faithful, even in divorce. Now, I know what I did might go against the ex-wives code because I was looking for it in the union handbook myself. And a couple of months after I got invited to do a comedy show at a church in Lansing, it was for Mother's Day. And instead of the pastor preaching for 45 minutes, he said, I want you to do comedy for 45 minutes and make the people laugh. Because, you know, you got to laugh to keep from crying. And Proverbs 17:22 says, laughter doeth good like a medicine, but a broken spirit drieth the bones. So I was brought in so you wouldn't have any dry bones. But the pastor said, or if after you do your comedy, if you want to share your testimony about what you did for your former, what? I'm not telling people that story. If you feel led, you don't have to do it. So I went on in my head, I'm like, ain't nobody telling nobody nothing. Ain't none of nobody business, because you know I'm guarded. I'm sitting here to make folks laugh. And so I did the 45 minutes of comedy, and people are rolling in the pews and laughing and choking. And I told them don't choke because we didn't have much insurance in the church. But I was glad that they were laughing. And then again, there was a monumental shift. And something at that moment spoke to me, share the testimony. Tell these people what you did. And so I began to talk about the spirit of forgiveness. Now, forgiveness for me is hard. I don't know about you, because I hold grudges. And my best friend is in this room right now, and she can testify. If I don't mess with you, I don't mess with you. Get 3 strikes and you out, typically. But I gave him 20 years, that is. And so I began to share the testimony with the congregation about what I did and the spirit of forgiveness, because unfortunately, there are some non-monumental moms. Everybody don't like their child, and every child don't like their mama. I know in my spirit there was some children and some parents that hadn't spoken to each other in a while. And so I pressed upon them, if you have a parent or a child that you haven't spoken to, now is the time for forgiveness, because life is short. People say tomorrow's not promised. Tonight is not promised. And so I shared the testimony, got off the stage, and people were shaking my hands and taking pictures and do what I do, and I tarried on home. And then I get an email from the pastor about a week later. He said, I'm forwarding you this email from somebody that was at the church on Mother's Day. I'm like, okay, bet. So I opened up the email and I began reading the email, and the email went like this. Pastor so-and-so, I want to thank you so much for having comedy at the church on Mother's Day. And while I enjoyed the comedian, she had me cracking up, and I was rolling in my seat. It was the testimony after the comedy that led me to write this email. And I'm writing this email as I sit in the waiting room of the Cleveland Cancer Clinic while my ex-husband is getting surgery. And like the comedian, if somebody would have told me he was on fire, I wouldn't have peed on him. But I sit here today in the spirit of forgiveness. And I want you to pass this email along and tell Crystal P that I said thank you. Because if I had not been there and had not heard her, I would have never been sitting in this waiting room, awaiting for my husband's cancer removal surgery. Thank you for having her at the church. And I share this twisted story with some of you monumental people. You never know who's watching. You never know who's taking notes. Do monumental things. As I shared with somebody earlier, I don't wait on people. Life is too short. There's too much going on today. Do not be alive and not live. If you want to see a movie, go see it by yourself. If you want to try a new restaurant, go eat by yourself. If you want to travel, you get on the plane and take your luggage and you go by yourself. Some of y'all keep saying that y'all covered in the blood, but you won't even leave your house by yourself. What are you covered by? Fear? Do monumental things. You don't know who is watching. Thank you so much for listening. I'm Crystal P. God bless you.
Crystal P.